Hi guys, welcome back to the Mind Master podcast, the podcast that's going to be giving you the tools, techniques, and insights you can begin to use in order to transform your life. Now in this episode, we're going to be looking at what is the biggest asset in your business. Hi guys, welcome back again. Here we are. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for investing your time, your energy into something that hopefully, or I feel will definitely provide enormous amount of value so that you can move forward in your business, whether you have one or whether you're about to start one. So it's about assets. What is the biggest asset in our business? When we think of assets, we might think, a house, we might think of machinery, we might think of things that bring value to our life, right? That's what an asset is. An asset is something that brings value, money to us over a period of time, okay? And you may think, well, what's Ollie going to say here? What's he going to recommend? What is it, a piece of equipment? Is it a technology? Is it something? It is nothing like that. Although I've just said that, when you look at the mind, it is a piece of technology. It is, to some extent, machinery. It's a vehicle. It's something that we can use in order to get what we want. But in order for this machine, in order for this tool to be effective, to be powerful, to create the life that we want and the emotions that we want to experience, we need to make sure that it's working right. We need to make sure that we're aware of the necessary ingredients that need to be there so that we can fully master our mind and utilize the tools that we have in order to achieve what we want as easily and effectively as possible. So what is this asset? It's the mind, right? But more specifically than that, it's your state. Your greatest asset within your business is your state of mind. What's the state of mind? State of mind is how you're feeling emotionally, what you're thinking about, what emotions you are experiencing right now. And the reason why your emotions are the greatest asset that you have is because they dictate everything. They control everything. They control the way that you act. They control the way that you feel. They control the way that you look at almost every situation of your life. And when it comes down to it, if you have a business right now and you know that you're not taking the action that you need to take, you're not taking massive action. Why is that? The reason is because you just don't feel like it. Why are you not going to the gym? It's because you just don't feel like it. Why are you not getting more clients? Because you just don't feel like it. Okay. Now, yes, sometimes we have that discipline and we can act in spite of how we feel. Sometimes we can be disciplined, which is absolutely necessary. Sometimes we need to act when we don't feel like it. But the reality is, the person who feels like doing a thing 80% of the time is going to outperform in every single area the person that only feels like doing it 20% of the time. So the question is, how can we put ourselves in a position where we feel like doing the things that are going to bring us forward? They're going to bring massive changes in our business. They're going to bring massive changes in our relationships. How can we become that person that feels like taking that action? Well, the first thing that we need to realize is we have a lot more control over our emotions and our thinking processes than we imagine. But because we're never really aware of it, because we never really paying attention to it, because we're so reactive with it, what we do is we find ourselves in positions where we're constantly in ruts. We're constantly in emotions that aren't serving us and aren't enabling us to take the empowered action we need to bring about the results that we want. So what I want to do in this podcast is to give you some tools, to give you some techniques and share some insights so that you can begin to train your mind to become more effective at enabling and creating the state that is productive towards the result that you are trying to achieve. But in order to do that, we really need to create some awareness around how our mind works, how our thinking process affects our emotions, and how our emotions change the way that we look at every aspect of our life. Now, the way that I share this with clients and on Instagram as well, if you follow me there, is that your emotion acts as a filter. You get those filters on Instagram, if you have it, where you swipe right and you swipe left, and it can turn something that looks not that impressive into something that looks quite beautiful. I'm guilty of it. We've all done it. But I want to explain to you that your emotions unconsciously are doing the same thing in your life, except often in a negative way. You see, when you're experiencing a negative emotion, okay, what our minds cannot do is it cannot separate that emotion from what we're looking at. So this means that when you're experiencing emotion, that emotion is going to influence the way that you are seeing that situation. Have you ever had it where, I don't know, maybe you were dealing with someone who wouldn't normally irritate you, but because you're in that irritated mood, because you're frustrated, your tolerance suddenly becomes so much less towards this individual's behavior. And you find yourself getting irritated by these smallest things. Now, is it that these things are different from what you experienced the day before? No, they could be exactly the same. But because you're in a different emotional state, you are perceiving things differently. You are perceiving your life through that emotion. And the way that we can see this is when you're in a bad mood, nothing looks good. It's not just that you're in a bad mood towards a specific thing or a specific person. It might be triggered by a specific thing or a specific person. But that emotion controls the whole way that you look at everything. Okay, so when you're feeling stressed, have you not noticed that when you're feeling stressed within your business, or whether you're about to start a business as well, have you ever noticed that your problems seem to increase in size in proportion to your stress? Have you noticed that? I know I have. I noticed that as I focused on things and I've got more worked up, these problems seem to increase in proportion to the emotion of the stress. And the exact same thing is for fear. Now, fear is a big one because fear is a very draining emotion. What happens is when we're in a fearful state, we begin to look at every aspect of our business or the place that we're working or the results that we're trying to achieve. We look at everything through that filter of fear. And we begin to see problems even when they're not there. I know you've experienced this. I'm talking from experience here, and I'm also talking from my clients' experience here. Nothing looks right for a bad mood. Okay? So if we can create some techniques here that you can begin to apply instantly into your business, into your mind, so that you can rapidly not only improve the level of effectiveness, the level of achievement, but also improve just how you feel on a day-to-day basis. Because one of the things that I truly believe is this is a happiness game. Okay, everything that you're trying to achieve right now is in one way to avoid pain and gear us towards happiness. Okay, it may not seem that way. It may seem, no, we're just trying to achieve this. But why are you really trying to achieve those things? You're trying to achieve those things because on some level, you believe it is going to reduce your suffering and it's going to increase your happiness. So we can do that right now. We can decide to create a beautiful state and let that. You see, because I've spoke about the negatives here, but the reality is it works the other way. If you're in a great state, have you not noticed that all your problems seem to just disappear in size? Have you ever noticed that someone's annoying behavior is no longer annoying? You're just like, oh, that's just the way he or she is. Aren't they unique? It's funny how we can look at things completely differently when we're in a different state. And how motivated you feel. How possible does it feel that you can go out and achieve your dreams? You're like, this is absolutely going to happen. I have tremendous certainty. Okay, who's felt like that? We've all felt like that. The problem is that we often don't stay there. We go through these waves of ups and downs of feeling frustrated and fearful. And then occasionally we begin to feel really inspired and motivated. And this is not because the situation's changed. It's not because business has suddenly become easier. It's not that, suddenly the universe is working in your favor. It's just that your state has changed. And the problem is we're not aware. We're not aware. So one of the first steps I'm going to mention in this 3-step process before I explain a little bit more about the mind is awareness. Being aware. What am I experiencing right now? You can even do this experiment right now. Just close your eyes, take a deep breath. Please don't do this if you're driving, by the way. That wouldn't be wise. But if you can, just think, how do I feel about my business right now? How do I feel about my relationship right now? How do I feel about my health right now? How do I feel about the very quality of my life right now? You can bet that whatever the answer that is, it's going to be down to the emotions that you're experiencing within yourself right now. If you're feeling stressed, it's going to feel like your business is stressful, your relationship's stressful, your life is stressful. If you're feeling incredibly happy and optimistic, you're going to be feeling that there's unlimited ways to grow your business, which is absolutely true. So now you've got awareness. I want to just give you some more information about the mind because the mind's a tricky one. It's a very tricky one. And a lot of the time I see with clients that they end up creating problems through overthinking. And then they try getting themselves out of that overthinking with more thoughts. You ever done that? Have you ever thought about a problem endlessly? And it just seems the more that you try and think about this problem, the further the solution gets away. Now, what I like to describe this is what we've done is we've created a hole. We've got ourselves in a hole and we are trying to dig ourselves out of a hole. You see what I'm saying here? The thinking got us in the hole. Now imagine that your thinking is that shovel, right? What we do is we dig ourselves a hole with our thinking and then we try to dig ourselves out of a hole. It is impossible to dig yourself out of a hole. Okay, the more that you dig, the further in that hole you get. The same as with our thinking process. So one of the things that we need to realize really when our thinking has no longer become effective. And just to detach ourselves from that situation. Okay? A lot of times we try looking so desperately for an answer, but we get so lost in the problem that we become ineffective in creating a solution. If you do not have to make a decision there and then, one of the most effective things you can do is wait. Focus on returning your state back to a more chilled zone, back to a more open-minded state, because once you do that, your ability to work on a problem is changed massively, because the emotions that we experience dictate the quality of how our mind works. Okay, it's very hard to be creative when you're stuck in a fearful state. So the best thing that you can do is begin to detach yourself from that problem. Take 5 minutes out, take a breather, and return back to that problem when you're in a different state. Okay, now your mind's not going to like this, because your mind is a thinking machine. It just thinks. You know, one of the things that shocked me was that we experience 50,000 thoughts a day. Now, you probably haven't taken stock of what these kind of thoughts are, but if you did, you'd realize that 80% of the thoughts are just useless. Worrying about the past, imagining bad things that could happen in the future, creating all these imaginary scenarios in our head. But the problem is, these imaginary scenarios actually create real emotional reactions within us. Okay, so what we're doing is we're thinking about all these negative things throughout our day, and it's triggering our emotions, which is changing the way that we feel and ultimately the way that we can act. Okay? But why is our mind so fearful? Why is our mind constantly overthinking things? Well, another bit of information or insights I want to share with you right now is that you have a monkey in your mind. And I remember every time I say this to my clients, they look baffled, they're confused, and they say, Ollie, what are you talking about? What do you mean I have a monkey in my mind? And what I explain to them is this. Thousands of years ago, we lived in an environment when any one moment we could have been eaten alive by a saber-toothed tiger. Okay? And so our natural survival instinct ingrained in our brain has this fight or flight mechanism. You know, and what this helps us do is it helps us generate the adrenaline so that we can become extremely aware and act quickly. Okay? Which is extremely helpful back in the day. You know, if you're about to be eaten alive and you need to run for your life, it's perfect. But the reality is we live in a completely different environment now. We're safe 90% of the time, 99% of the time, we're completely safe. Yet these same emotions are being triggered because although you know you're safe, your monkey mind doesn't. And it's constantly looking for threats. It's constantly looking for things to worry about. And because of this, it's looking around in the environment that it's in. And it's constantly thinking in response to what's happening around us. Okay, and the problem is, if you're trying to build a business, if you're trying to make things happen in your life, and this fight or flight mechanism is constantly absorbing your attention and creating fear, it's going to stop you from acting out, stop you from taking the empowered action you need to make whatever results you need a reality, which is extremely unhelpful. But the problem is we haven't separated ourselves from this monkey mind. We think this own mind that's going off 50 miles per hour, 100 miles per hour at times, is our thinking. But I want to ask you a question. If it was your thoughts, if it was your thinking, wouldn't you be able to stop it? Wouldn't you be able to turn it off? Wouldn't you be able to control everything it thinks? If it was yours, you would be able to. But because we have this automatic mind, this automatic response that's constantly worrying and fearing and imagining all the things that could go wrong, and we don't realize that it's not us, we invest all of our time and our energy and it ends up ruining our state, ruining the way that we look at our life and our business, and ultimately sabotaging the action that we can take and reducing the limits, the results that we can achieve. So I want to give you a quick tool that you can begin to use in order to overcome this monkey mind and begin to take more control of your state and begin to find it easier and more enjoyable to take the action that you need to take things to the next level. So the first step we've already spoke about is awareness. You need to be aware whenever this monkey mind has stepped into your business. Okay, and the way that you can be aware of that is one simple, very simple technique, which is this. Whenever you're experiencing thoughts and emotions that you do not want to be experiencing, that is a monkey mind. That is a monkey mind. Okay? Because like I already said, if it was yours, if they were your thoughts, if they were your emotions, you'd be able to stop them. But because it's a part of your mind that's based on survival instincts being triggered, okay, we can't always control that triggering. It's impossible to control that triggering. However, we can control how we choose to react to it. But the best way is to spot as soon as it has been activated. And once you've realized that it's been activated, you're going to go, hold on a second. Before I dive more into this train of thought, before I dig myself deeper, is my level of thinking right now effective? Is it coming from me or is it coming from my monkey mind? This simple technique alone, creating this awareness, will instantly improve the way that you think about your life and the way that you think about your business. Okay, but it's just not enough to be aware. It's not enough just to be aware. The second step that we need to take if we want to really transform our state and take control of our mind is acceptance. Now, when I say acceptance, people are a bit funny with this one. They're a bit like, well, why would I accept stuff? I don't want to accept stuff. Like, that'll make my life rubbish. But the reality is, okay, there is a million things that aren't in our control. Okay, there is one of you. There are 6 other billion people in this world. There are millions of situations. The weather, how people react, what time a train decides to turn up. These are all things that aren't in our control. But what actually happens is our monkey mind, because it's so fearful, it wants to control its environment. This goes back to 1,000 years ago when we needed to survive. It wants to control our environment. And what we realize is a lot of the times that our monkey mind is being triggered is around things that we can't even control. And the problem is we still try and control them because we believe it's our thinking, because we believe it's our emotions. We desperately trying to control the things around us. But when you actually begin to realize and separate the things that you can control and the things that you can't, and stop trying to control the things that you can't, and one more than that, begin to accept them, you actually begin to train this monkey mind. You begin to diffuse the emotions of fear and frustration that arise from it on a daily basis. And because of that, you begin to protect your state. And when you make a habit of protecting your state, and you begin to find yourself in more good moods more often, it's going to be easy to take the action that you need. Okay? But we need one more step. It's not just enough to be aware of it. It's not enough just to accept it. We have to distract it. We have to shift our focus because this monkey mind is not going to give up. Okay? Even once we accepted it, it's still going to try and take over your mind and say, yeah, but what about this? What happens if this goes wrong? What happens if you lose all this money? What happens if this person does this? What happens if this person says this? It will keep wanting to go. So you have to forcibly redirect your attention because the monkey mind is going to be forcing you to engage in its thoughts. So you need to focus your attention elsewhere. And the most effective tool that we have for focusing our attention elsewhere is our breath. You see, our breath is always there. It's always happening. It's something that occurs even when we're not thinking about it. Okay? And we're usually not ever thinking about it because we're so lost in our thoughts. We're so lost in our emotions. But if you can make a habit each day of becoming aware of when your emotions have been triggered, accepting the things that you cannot control, and then giving your entire attention to focusing on the inhalations and exhalations of your breath, what you're going to do is train your mind to become more effective at dealing with the fears and problems that are arising within your business and life. How valuable would that be for you? How valuable would it be if you could move past the problems much quickly and actually begin to see the potential in them? How much more effective would you be able to act within your business if you were able to reduce the amount of fear that consumes your emotion and your energy? A lot. We'd be able to change our life a lot. So do it right now. Focus on your breath completely. Okay. Now, in order for this technique to become a transformation, so that you can experience a state which easily enables you to take the action that you need, there's one thing we need to realize. And it is that the way that we think is habitual. Okay, it's automatic. It happens again and again and again. I remember this crazy statistic was like 50,000 thoughts a day, 80% are the same ones we thought yesterday, which are creating the same emotions, which are making us act in the same type of ways, which leaves the question, is it any surprise that we are producing the same results in our business? Probably not. So I want you to break this habit right now, okay? And the quickest way for you to break this habit is to become acutely aware of whenever your emotions are being triggered. Begin to become accepting towards the things that you cannot control and directing your attention towards your breath, okay? If you can make a habit of this, if you can make it a habit to go to this technique every single time that you are triggered, you're going to be building that mindful muscle, okay? Because the way that this works is just like a muscle. You know, you wouldn't go to the gym, do a press up and expect everything to change. No way. People would laugh at you if you said that. The exact same is with your mind. And this is why motivation, positive thinking is pretty useless if you're not making it a habit, okay? It shouldn't just be positive thinking. It should just be normal thinking to you. It should just become the way that you automatically think about things. And it will, if you, with your consciously attention, practice this as much as you can in your life. If you can take control of your state, not only will you begin to experience the life that you want emotionally, but you are also going to enable and set yourself up to take the action that you need to create the results that you want. That is all from me today, guys, because I want you to take away this technique and practice it. Practice it as much as you can. You can practice it throughout your day. You don't have to tell people, hey guys, I'm just practicing the awareness, acceptance, and distraction technique. You don't need to do it. You can keep it to yourself and keep practicing it again and again and again. And eventually, through that, you will transform your emotional state. And because of that, transform the results that you're getting within your business. As always, it's an absolute pleasure to speak to you. And I hope this has been valuable to you. If you feel that there's someone who is always overthinking things, always digging themselves into a rut, and you know that they could really benefit from this technique, from these insights around the mind, please share that with them. It would mean absolutely the world to me. But until then, guys, I will see you very soon. Take care.